If you're new to grading Pokemon cards, I have some tips and some tricks that I'm going to show you on what to look for so that you're not surprised when you get your grades back from PSA. Here's what you need to do. Alright, I got some Pokemon cards here I'm going through for a friend of mine. We're going to submit these into PSA. I go through everything and I actually take notes on every card, let them know what I think the grades are going to be. I've got a pretty good eye for it. I've had a lot of practice looking at these over the years. Pokemon, I'm more new, but I have a really good eye for it, and I know what to look for. So anytime that you're starting out grading, the first thing you need to do is get yourself a centering tool. I'll leave a link down in this description. This tool is perfect for anybody that doesn't have a keen eye. It teaches you exactly what you need to look for. So if you hold your card up there, you can see there's numbers actually on there, and it tells you how well centered it is. This one actually, as long as you hold it in the right spot, is pretty well centered. Okay, so a lot of people don't realize there is a border on most Pokemon cards. But as you can see over here, the border's gone. It disappears. So you actually have to use this little circle right here, because that is in the center of the centering. I guess it's not in the center, but it's where it needs to be. So you can see it falls right on that 3 and 3, 3 and 3. As well does this over here. It falls on the 3 and the 3. So it tells you right there that it's centered up. I'll show some pictures too. That's some very well centered cards. This one is very well centered on the front. Now on the back, you can flip it over. Now they're not nearly as stringent on centering on the back. You actually are allowed a 75% off center. So it'd be 75-25 on the back. Typically with Pokemon cards, the centering on the back is the same as the centering on the front. So a lot of times you can see the centering better on the back because there is always a border on the back. So that's really helpful with this. As you can see, this one's centered up as well. Now the next thing I do is I take it out of the sleeve, carefully of course, and I inspect the surface. So now when you look at this card, it looks great, right? No issues at all. But you need to use this light. I have a light overhead here, and I use that light. I shine it. I take it over different angles, and I look for scratches or any imperfections. Sometimes you'll find some very, very fine scratches that you won't see unless you have a really good lighting source. All right, I'm going to show you the light surface scratches that I'm looking for. Right here. Right above, look right above his hair. Let's see if I can find it with the light. There, right there. See that? It looks like a hair. It's not a hair. That is a light scratch. That surface scratch, which you can barely pick up, but you can with the light, that will knock you down a grade. There's actually some scratches up by the hair, by the ear too. There you go. Oh, I caught him. Boom, right there. Very fine scratches. Those surface scratches will take you down to a 9 without any other issues on the card. So you have to use that light. As you can see, it goes across there, and it will pick up anything that you might not notice without this light. So I always check the front first, and then I flip it over to the back. Now with Pokemon cards, it's really this is right where you'll catch most of the defects. This blue edge here, it is very prone to chipping, and most of the time you'll be able to see if it's bad. Now this one in particular, this is the first time I'm looking at this one. It looks pretty good. I do notice down here at the very bottom corner, which I don't think the camera is going to pick it up, there is a very small amount of whitening. Now another trick I'll show you here is I have a black matte, which looks really not great because of all the dust from the cards. But there, now you can see that white. See that little bit of white right there? It's the tiniest amount. Now, I will take my finger and very lightly check that corner, which I'm not going to be able to hold the camera and do that. Let's see, I'll get my camera back centered up. I will take, out of focus, my thumb and just barely rub over that corner just in case it's just dust. And actually, in this case, it looks like it was dust and it came off. It's not going to center back. There we go. So this card in particular looks pretty good. I'd say that's probably a 10. So the next thing I'll do, so I've got my centering, I got my surface, I checked my corners. You want to check every corner, and you want to check all your edges. That's the key. That's really all you need to do. And really, it's just that quick. I typically go through these fairly quickly. And then I'll grab myself a new sleeve. I'll slide that in. There you go. And then a card saver. Now here's a very important tip as well. When you're putting this into the card saver, you don't want to push right here. What I like to do is I hold it like this, because if you push right here, a lot of times you can damage this edge right here. So I'll hold it in between two fingers, and I'll flip my card saver over, and I'll open it up, and I got it slid in, and I'll squeeze the sides, and I'll slide in with my thumb and my finger, and then you just slide that down in there, and then bang. That's how you safely put it in there. Now this is ready to go to PSA. Now let me see if I can find a card real quick that has bad edges. Just quickly glance over it so I can show you. I have some pictures prepped up. I'll show you at the end of the video on some things that you wouldn't think it's terrible. Okay, this one right here. First glance, looks pretty good, right? Edges look good. There's a little bit of a white speck right here. See that tiniest little white speck? Right there. That will hold you back. If that won't wipe off with your finger, then I will take a microfiber cloth. This is from eyeglasses I just bought. And I'll try to wipe it off with that. And it's not coming off. Another thing you got to look out for is just a little bit of white specks. Sometimes it's a print defect. Sometimes it wipes off. See this spot right there? Very tiny little spot. It looks white to me. Kind of looks like a little bit something that might wipe off. This right here works pretty well. It's a little bit of rubbing alcohol and water. Mostly rubbing alcohol because you want it to evaporate. Sports cards, I'll spray this directly on the card. I will not do that with Pokemon because of the surface. It will soak in. You got to be really careful with it, the edges. So I'll take a little bit here and I'll spray it on my microfiber. And then I'll just give it a little rub and see if that comes off. Make sure you get the dryness, or you dry side too. You dry it off. See if it rubs off. And this one in particular did not. It actually looks like a dent on camera. It looks like a white speck to me in person, but it did not wipe off. Now this is where I would say this is on the edge, 9/10. A lot of times graders won't pick that up. They'll think it's a piece of dust. So I would write this down in my notes as a 9/10, as long as everything else is good on the card. I personally will risk it and try to get the 10 out of it. And a lot of times I'll get the 10, a lot of times I'll get the 9. That's something else you need to be looking for. Now, I'm going to say that's not going to come off. Ooh, and I just found another thing right there. See that? That's a dent. So you need to check your surfaces. Your surface will have, a lot of times it'll find a little bit of a dent. So again, that light is just key. You have to have that light. If you go over the card, bang, it pops right out as soon as you get it underneath the correct light. That's what you need to look for. So this is going to probably be an 8. That dent right there is going to take it down. That corner isn't too bad, but it's got a little bit of whitening at the very top. Tough to pick up on camera. Centering is good. I could just eyeball it and see it's maybe a little bit off, a little bit thicker over here. Not terrible. But that little bit of an imperfection, that small little divot, will knock you down a grade or 2. A lot of times 2 grades. So that's the tiny little stuff you got to find, and you really just need a light to be able to see that. And that's it, guys. That's really it. You're just looking over the surface. A lot of times you'll find some light scratches. Light scratches will knock you down a grade. Centering will knock you down a grade. Edges and corners. That's it. I spend about, I would say on average, 15 to 20 seconds looking over a card. That's all it takes. You don't need a fancy jeweler's loop. Well, at least I don't. I have decent enough eyes that I can see it, but I don't use a jeweler's loop. I don't use anything crazy. You just need a good lighting source and some soft hands, which aren't very soft. But you just got to be careful with it and just look over the surface and check for chipping or anything else. And that's it, guys. That's really it. That's all you need to do. Centering and chipping. All right. Good luck. Send those cards in. Get some gems.